Who is God is a question that is answered by several religions. And yet, if we ask a simple question such as, if God created us, then who created God? Religion will just point us to faith and close our eyes. But science will encourage us to ask such difficult questions, research on it, and find an answer. Stephen Hawking is one such famed scientist who has asked several big questions and found answers. His answers leads us to believe that there is no God and there is no creator. However, when I look into his research and answers, I find amazing definition of who God is. Let's look at two such questions and the answers that Stephen Hawking gave and how that helps us define God. The first question is there a God? And Stephen Hawking says the whole universe is bound by laws of nature. If you see the planets are bound by the laws of nature to go around the sun. The sun is bright and burning is because of laws of nature. And our human body is functioning because of laws of nature. And even our mind, the way it thinks, is bound by the laws of nature. So if you see the biggest of big planet in this universe and the minute coronavirus, all of these are bound by laws of nature. So Stephen Hawking says, if there is a God, that God is also bound by these laws of nature. And perhaps the embodiment of all these laws of nature by itself is God. You might say that sounds absurd. How can a law of nature be God? You see, another word that we can use for law is word. And the Bible says, in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. All that was created through that word. And this explains why God is omnipotent. When we say omnipotent, it means God can do everything in this universe. And everything in this universe is happening because of the laws of nature. The next big question that Stephen Hawking asked is, what is the origin of universe? And Stephen Hawking explains this by looking at a cup of coffee. Although a coffee needs someone to grind the beans and brew it, yet when you look at the coffee minutely, you will see it is made up of large number of molecules. Now, if you further look into it, into the subatomic level, you will see protons. And these protons have a nature to appear, disappear, and then reappear somewhere else. And Stephen Hawking explains, in the same way as proton just appearing out of nowhere, universe also appeared out of nowhere, and it has enlarged over these millions of years and has become to what it is today. And therefore, Stephen Hawking says the origin of the universe did not require a creator. However, Stephen Hawking failed to go one step further. You see, for a proton to appear, disappear, and reappear elsewhere, the proton should first exist. And that existence is God. In the Bible, Moses asks God, what is his name? And God says, Haya Asher Haya. The English Bible incorrectly translates it to I am the I am. However, the right translation is the existence that exists. And this also resonates with what the Hindu scriptures talk about the definition of Brahma, the God. Brahma is also defined as a vast, non-dual existence that is everywhere in this universe. So in essence, if you look at everything that you see in this universe, right from the farthest planet to everything that you see in this earth, all of them are made of the subatomic particles such as protons. And a step further from these protons is the existence. Therefore, existence forms the base layer of everything that you see. And this defines the omnipresence of God. If you think if you close your doors and do something and nobody sees, yet God is there in the form of existence around you and He can see what you are doing. If you go right under the deepest of the ocean, you can see existence there as well. Now, let's say you are just sitting in one place and thinking about bad things in your mind. Still, an existence deep in your body knows what exactly you're thinking. So there is no place in this universe that you can run to and hide from God, who is the existence that is around us. Now, this might sound so absurd to define two scientific concepts such as existence and laws of nature as God. The way we have envisioned God is a dynamic person who has eyes to see, ears to hear our prayers, and a heart to move with compassion. However, these scientific terms such as existence and laws of nature sounds very lifeless and emotionless. And this can be explained by looking at ourselves. The Bible says God created man in his own image. So if we are an image of God, it cannot be the mortal body and mind that disintegrates. The only part of our body that does not disintegrate is our conscience. You can also call that as our self or our heart or soul. And that is the part of us that cannot be measured by any scale. It cannot be touched and felt. Yet it truly exists, and that is what truly defines the life in us. Several years back, my wife went through an event of seizure. As she was going through seizure, she lost her conscience and she was in distress. And looking at her state, I called the paramedics and they came and helped her revive and get back into conscience. As long as she did not have conscience, all I could see is a body that is in distress needing medical attention. But the moment the conscience came back into her, I could get the connection with her as a husband and wife. So to truly define what made that body become my wife is the conscience. The moment the conscience left, that body was just a body. Although a conscience cannot be seen or felt, yet a conscience truly exists. And its impact can be felt by everyone around us, including us. In the same way, although we cannot see the laws of nature or feel it, yet you can feel the effects of the laws of nature through whatever that happens around this universe. If existence is what you see everywhere in this universe, how can you define God with just one stone or a statue? If I keep a stone or a statue and call that as God, you see, God is not just here that I should bow down. God is everywhere. I should be just looking around throughout the universe and bowing down to everything. So if you rightfully want to objectify God, you have to objectify God as the entire universe and not just one statue or one stone. The next thing that is not God is what you imagine and feel. You see, Christians would say, hey, I do not have any statues or stone in front. I worship God by closing my eyes and believing He is here. You see, if God is everywhere in this universe, there is no reason for you to close your eyes and imagine He's everywhere. You just have to realize. You see, by imagining and believing, you are constraining the presence of God to some time and place. And with God being the existence that is all around you, your imagination and your feeling is not God. And the third thing people think is that they themselves are God. Some might say, I am God, or some might say, my conscience is God. You see, as we saw, our conscience is a shadow or an image of the true and living God. It is exact replica of who God is. If you want to understand this in computer terms, if you start an application, the application runs in a main thread. The main thread is the one that controls the entire life cycle of your application. And the main thread starts many sub-threads which functions independently and comes back to the main thread. And we are like these sub-threads that we start from the main thread, which is God. We live our life independently and then we go back to this main thread, which is God. So the sub-thread, which is our conscience, is not God. We started our life from God. We live in this earth and we will go back to the God from whom we came from. Now that you have heard scientifically why God is omnipresent and why God is omnipotent, I would encourage you, when you worship God in ever so many places in whatever way you do not replace Him with fake things such as a stone or an idol or imagination or feeling. Open your eyes and realize His existence and worship Him for truly who He is. Thank you.